Mm-hmm.
All
Okay.
right, got it. There we go. I see you just started, Roy. Awesome.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Thank you for the background of why we're having this conversation, and I completely agree. In the end of the day, first of all, a second opinion is always a good one, and then if it's coming from an expert, that's even better. So I'm excited for this.
Awesome. 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 And then what I will do when we're done is I'll sit down and I'll write everything down basically as a recap in a document then that you guys can use as an actionable item, right? So this is something we can attack today. This is something that we can use to enhance our sales pitch. This is something we can use for our marketing piece. This is something we can use to actually go out to the recruiters, because one of the things about a tool like this, guys, is so many companies, when things are especially really busy,
Mm.
they'll just say, go figure out where you find the people. And if they have, again, when they're really busy and they have a good budget, companies many times will lean towards grab this tool, try this tool, try this tool, right? So you want to be the tool that people recognize as a value add that's so robust and so easy to use and so clean and so user friendly from a candidate perspective and from a leadership perspective to say yes to, but very easy for a recruiter
Mm,
because they're
mm,
the ones ultimately that are going to use it. And
mm,
they're
mm,
also going to be ones, guys, that are going to be questioned about how the tool's working and what's the ROI.
mm.
So that is also a really important thing to remember when you're pitching this to somebody in a TA HR bucket, and how easy it is for the people that are in the trenches trying to fill the jobs to use.
Yeah.
Mhm. 1 second. There's I have to just put myself in another room.
No problem.
1 second.
Yeah, no, that's super helpful. And I'm sure with we're going to be discussing, it will probably also help us a lot with the current pitch that we have and how we present ourselves.
Yeah.
'Cause something that we've noticed recently is sometimes when we pitch, we don't sorry? Oh, we don't necessarily direct it to the person that we're speaking with and the challenges that they're finding and and which part of our USP fits well into what they're after and their solution and their story. So I think if you help us understand what are the key words, what are the key terms, what are the key ways in order to stand out of the various different solutions out there when it comes to this field to our target audience, which is the recruiters, then makes a huge difference. So how do you guys want to start this?
I think, Roy, what you and I talked about is let's just start at the top with the system. Like I'd be going into the system, and then Rasha, maybe you can jump in and from a sales perspective or a pitch perspective, if you said you're kind of running into some roadblocks, right?
Mm,
When you're doing a pitch or you're trying to get somebody to say yes, just give a call out and I'll document it all, guys. And then again, we can put it in as an actionable item document for you to use and kind of like your roadmap when you're
mm,
looking at how else you do things to enhance the product or enhance your pitch as you move forward.
okay, awesome.
Roy, is that okay with you?
This is perfect.
Okay, awesome.
Um, I'm going to take us through the site, but I just also wanted to share a bit a diagram I've put together on how the system works.
Okay.
We have two main products, job sourcing, D&I training. We have a third major entity called who are the candidates. And usually our main hub is job sourcing, where people find us on Google, go onto the page, or we send an email marketing campaign to recruiters in whatever target geographies we're interested in, mostly North America, Europe, and the Middle East. People make it to our website, fill a form,
Okay.
start a
So
pilot.
Roy, can I ask a question,
Of course.
please? So you're saying in job sourcing, so I'm a candidate trying to find a job, right? That's what you mean by job sourcing?
Oh, no, I'm an employer trying to hire people.
Okay, so maybe, so I think this is fabulous that you've got the workflow diagram. I think this is fabulous, but maybe rename that, because I
Sure.
think this would also be really good to show to the executive advisory board, right? As a tool to understand what the workflow is, because as we ask for their help to plug into different places, it'll help them understand a bit more. So maybe you want to call it hiring manager or positions or something, right? So something that it shows me that it's the role. And you said something about how do people find you, right? So what are you using to push the brand out there for a company to find you?
So we have, we're very strong in SEO. We have about 60 articles in our blog. So if you search for jobs for the blind, jobs for the neurodivergent, jobs for refugees, jobs for humanity, diversity jobs, all of these, we show up on the first page of Google. So we get
Okay.
a lot of organic flow. We also have an outbound email marketing campaign.
Yeah.
And then third, whenever employers come in and sign up with us, and then they go through, first part is a pilot, the pilot phase, which goes from like around this area here, which is you've got 2 weeks where you can publish as many jobs as you want, or we can integrate with your ATS and publish jobs for you. And then we'll match inside our talent database. And then from here, send you more candidates, send job alerts to candidates, but we also distribute jobs to aggregators and our own job sites, and then candidates find us. And then we get into the candidate loop, which then we offer them job coaching, free job coaching, ad hoc emails, invites to free courses and seminars and things like that. And we invite them to jobs where they're a good match for. So the advertisement levers are organic, email campaign, and job distribution, our job sites and the other aggregators.
Okay. And are you going to any events?
Yeah, we've gone to about 7 or 8 conferences, invited to speak at Unleash here in Paris in October, but we don't go to enough events.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that's something that's a want. Okay.
Mm.
All right.
And candidates get that service for like free job coaching, job alerts, invites to free courses and upskilling. This then creates lots of content that creates blog articles that fuels back our organic reach for employers and job seekers. And then we have diversity training, which is a little bit orphaned from everything else. So we're talking about connecting that to the main value proposition where we get employers and job seekers. So here we go to conferences, we go to word of mouth. Usually conferences care about diversity training because what we do is quite unique. And so it's a little bit orphaned here. And then
so Roy, tell me why is it so unique versus anybody else? So if I'm a major organization, a major global organization, and you come to me and you tell me about the postings and the jobs and all that kind of great stuff, and the job aggregates, the place going out to 42 different sites, all that kind of stuff, right? The thing that interested me, right, originally when we first talked, how many months ago? Yeah. What is so unique about your DE&I training? What makes it easier, more palatable, more understandable for somebody that is maybe they're new into DE&I, or maybe they're stuck and they just don't know how to move their organization, or even their team, right? Because the TA recruiting teams are always the ones that are responsible for bringing the talent into the organizations. Even if it's a referral, they still process it through. So they're responsible. And sometimes they just don't know how to be inclusive. They don't know how to include everyone and to be completely fair, not because they're trying to not be, they just don't know how to do it. So what's so unique about yours?
I mean, you pretty much said it in the sense that a lot of people don't know how to be inclusive of people from all these various communities, but even and a lot of the trainings that I've taken are very theoretical. They're not as practical as basically, these are the biases per community. These are the challenges they face. This is how they overcome them. These are challenges you face when you want to hire from this particular community, and this is how you overcome them. This is how you create an inclusive interview for each one of these communities. So basically a training that rules them all for how to be inclusive at the interview stage, onboarding stage, reasonable accommodations, quality conversations, tough conversations, and tax benefits that you'd get if you work with these various communities. So there's this very practical element, but also a one-on-one coaching and mentorship where we take advantage of the volunteer days that many companies have, where they get to put that to action and then actually job coach candidates from the communities that they're most interested in, and really retain that information, but also you get lots of success stories. You get an amazing feel-good thing and actually really change people's lives. Like you maximize that volunteer day that many companies get. So this is a unique program in that sense.
Okay, so a few questions for you. And Rasha, maybe this is something from a sales pitch perspective, once I hear, Roy, kind of your answer. So I love the connection into volunteer days, because as we all know, that's becoming more and more popular. That's fantastic. But two things. Number one, the DE&I training is a latch on, right? So they have to pay for that separately as a client, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so that's one thing. But the other thing is there something like when you purchase X amount of job postings, does that come with like a one-pager tips and tricks that goes to the recruiters on inclusive hiring, ease of process, how you actually, so some of the things that you just rattled off, Roy, that go into the deep training that people should absolutely pay for. I'm not saying give it away for free, but could we give the clients a one-pager cheat sheet for their recruiters when they buy their postings? And it's a value add. I'm guessing, Rasha, and you can tell me this if I'm wrong, and I could be, but I'm guessing when you're selling this, you're talking about all these things anyway, that it could be a very simple value add that you're already talking about, but somebody hasn't put on paper.
It makes a lot of sense. It's just going to be hard to fit it all in, even if 5 pages, maybe 5 would work, just because the content is incredibly dense. It's a lot of info.
So I'm talking simplified, right? So I had an old leader that used to tell me, Don, I just want it very simple, bullet pointed. I don't want War and Peace, right? I don't want a huge book. Yeah. So I think what you could do is take the dense things and take the core themes and have them in a 1 or a 2 pager that comes with their product that they've purchased. And there's 2 reasons for it. Number one, you are truly passionate about DE&I. That's why you started this company. You want them to have something that makes you different than the other job posting sites out there. Yeah. Very simple, very easy to do. Number 2, it gives them a bit of an idea of what your DE&I training has that they could buy if they wanted to.
Of course. For sure. That's something that we can work on and put in place and make that part of the communication with employers, and then the offering as part of the any kind of purchase of JobSnows.
Yep. I think that would be an easy, simple thing. I'm sorry, Rasha. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speak over you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Finish your sentence. Sorry.
Well, I was just, if you look at, right, so what we're trying to do when we look at a tool like this is if I'm in a TA team, I want it to be obvious that anytime I think about DE&I talent, I think about Jobs for Humanity. So you are also trying to build the brand and kind of intertwine the things that's so phenomenal about your business with the brand so that everybody knows, right? You should be able to go to every big company and every little company, honestly, whoever, because this product can
Mhm.
work for everybody.
Mm.
And they would understand why Jobs for Humanity is the absolute choice from the very first time in the hiring blob you have up there to the
Yeah.
candidate blob to the DE&I training. The theme should be common throughout. You're the number one product. You're the number one service. You're the most inclusive solution that's out there. The return on investment is this. The value proposition is that. So I think you could use all these good things that you're doing that's in your heads. And if you could put them on simplified pieces of paper and documents to share, I think they'd be huge selling points. When you
Mhm.
actually have a candidate that goes through your system or a hiring manager that we're not going to talk about the training quite yet, but a hiring manager, do you do a satisfaction survey with the hiring managers after they've purchased and use your product to see what they're saying?
We do a call rather than a survey. We do a check-in and a call, be it someone who signed up for the survey or someone who just did the pilot. And we always understand if what worked and what didn't, regardless of whether they stayed with us after the pilot or not.
I love that. I love that. That's high touch customer service. But I would also say the thing that I've learned, guys, and I've learned it in a variety of different ways. Sometimes people won't tell you on the phone what they really feel and what they think. They don't want to talk about it. And they for whatever reason. So sometimes sending a survey monkey or some kind of survey afterwards and making it anonymous. And that, again, that does a couple of things. Number one, it gives you information from somebody who's using the system and bought from you. And it gives you the opportunity to have, kudos, things that people you could put out on your website that they're saying things about you, additional things that you could put out on LinkedIn, right? That you could add to your blogs, right? We've received feedback on this. So I think you should maybe think about maybe doing something like that. And from a candidate perspective, have you ever done anything like that to anybody that maybe you've known that's been hired? Or I don't know if you guys can tell as you go through your system if a candidate actually, number one, has been hired, but number two, maybe got to the interview stage. Is there a way for you guys to see that?
Um,
After
yeah.
you, Lasha.
We, to a certain extent, it's not fully in our control to be able to get the full conversion rate from when the candidate has applied until getting hired, unfortunately, because a lot of times there's external parties that take part of the entire process. So they may have hired the person, they may have not, we're not entirely sure, but what we know for sure is that we were able to source X amount of people that are that of a good fit for that one job or for that one company. However, we do have a few like really great loops or full circle, let's say, journeys where we know how many people have gotten hired, and that's usually in the case of something like a training, because we've started the process from the beginning to the end, and we're speaking to the people themselves, like the stakeholders who have hired that person, so it's a bit easier. And I don't know if we send, Roy, you'd have to jump in on this one. If we send a survey or something to candidates every now and then, just to understand like whether they got hired, what their experience is like. I'm not aware that we do that currently, but it is something we've been thinking about.
We don't.
No, we don't currently do that, but it is something that we've recently put on our product roadmap. Like, we noticed that we've been focusing a lot on the employer, so we want to give a bit of attention to candidates just to see like, what is your journey like? Do you need to hear more from us? Do you need to get more of a feedback loop and know what's happening? Like, we don't want you to come on our platform and then we forget about you, et cetera, et cetera. So it is something. But if you have an idea of how we could, and it doesn't necessarily have to be hired, because it is something we struggle with slightly. One of the first questions that people ask when they get on a call with us to learn more about the product is, what's your success rate? Like, what's your
Yep.
conversion rate? How many people do you hire? And we don't have that number because we don't have full control over that measurement.
Yep. So I think a couple things. I'm glad to hear that it's on your roadmap because it should be. I think the big thing that you miss if you don't ask the candidate. So two things. A huge mistake that organizations make when they're talking about doing candidate satisfaction surveys or a candidate survey or a client survey, right? They don't think about the group of people that they're talking to, right? When you're talking to a candidate, so Rasha, let's use your point. When you're talking to a candidate, you want to talk to a candidate that's made it to the interview stage on up, not just being hired, because you want to understand how they feel about the whole recruitment process. And even if, I always tell companies, you need to remember, if somebody interacts with your company, they carry your brand forward. So it doesn't matter if they're hired. It doesn't matter if they're an employee. It doesn't matter if they were impacted by a redeployment. They will carry your brand forward, and how they're taken care of during that process depends on how they're going to carry your brand forward. So that's why it's so important to ask the candidate. So how easy is this system for candidates to use? Do they feel like when they look at your site, that it's inclusive of them? When they're actually talking to a manager or a business partner within one of your clients, so I'm going to call them a business partner, right? Do they feel like they're being taken care of or handled with the same philosophies of Jobs for Humanity, right? Are your companies taking care of the candidates that are coming through there the way that right? You want to understand what candidates are feeling, because again, they're going to carry the brand forward, but they're also going to come back and tell you, I had a glitch in the system, or, your site doesn't look like me, or, you know what, this process took way too long. There were too many steps. There were too many clicks, right? Whatever it is, you have to ask the people using the system. That's why the demo idea of going through a demo from top to bottom is so critical, because you want to understand the things that you are also passionate and love this tool so much. You're not a job seeker out there. You're not a company out there. And that's a very different viewpoint. So I absolutely think you should do the surveys, and it could be a random survey, Rasha, like you were saying. Maybe you pick, just throw the random net once a month and get feedback from people. Or if you have a way to survey and actually process all of it, that's a lot of people if you're going to do for all of the people in a month. But you have to be able to make sure that you can take that information and do something with it. But there's a lot of different reasons you should be doing.
And how, because one of the things with surveys that you hear from people a lot is, okay, like I gave you a lot of feedback, you're going to take it in, but in the end of the day, I'm here to get a job. And what's the incentive for the candidate?
It is, I will tell you that people that want to give you an opinion and feedback, they're going to give you an opinion and a feedback. And it's all about asking them, listen, we respect you. We really appreciate your viewpoint, however you want to say it. And thanks for them to do it. And you're right. The problem with a lot of businesses inside Rasha is that surveys have become so quote unquote popular. They do so much surveying that people inside don't want to answer them anymore. If you're just asking people on occasion to do this for you, you're right. You're not going to get everybody that's going to respond, but it's how the message of why you want to make them respond. We want to make this better. We want to make it more inclusive. We want to make sure that it's easy for you to use, so that you would invite your friends, right? Invite your colleagues, clients. We want there to be so much value and so much easy ROI that you're going to tell your friend who used to work here but now runs a TA department in company X, Y, and Z that they should use it. So you don't have to give somebody an incentive to do this. I think, Rasha, that's kind of what you're thinking. What are you going to do to get them to do it? I think you need to build up a nice message of why you're asking them to do that. And some people won't, and some people will. And then what will you do is you look at your return rate and figure out, oh, we sent out 1,000, we got back 5. Okay, do we need to change the messaging? Great. Typically when you do a survey process, so you can send a survey out to a candidate or to a hiring manager, but then you have to do a follow-up email and a follow-up email. And typically you can just do that as an automated generated way of doing it versus having to manually do that in a system. So you send out the survey, you don't hear from anybody. A week later, they get an automated message that says, we sent you an email a week ago. If you could please take a minute, we'd really appreciate it. You don't hear from them again. You send a third one. If they don't answer again, then you're done, right? Then you've done your work. If they come back after that third time, great. If they don't come back, great. At least you're going to have a trail, right? That you sent somebody a survey and that you tried to get their feedback.
I see. No, I completely hear you. And on the point of surveys, I want to ask you some questions on your earlier point.
Sure.
One, the survey for the employers, and then the D&I training USPs that we were talking about. So from experience, and you would have more experience in this than me, candidates usually, or customers usually, tend to be way more open to give feedback. A big part of it is also because there's more time to do that, whereas employers or the customer doesn't, because you're speaking to someone during the full-time job, et cetera, et cetera. So and I'm very careful with these things, and which is one of the reasons why we tend to put them on calls. Although I agree with you, like, you don't always get the full reality, let's say, if someone's speaking to you, then being anonymous. What's your experience of the response rate usually when you do that with the customer? In this case, both of them are customers, candidates and employees, but I'm talking here more about the customer that's paying us money, let's say.
So I think a couple of things. I think you need to, whenever you're dealing with anyone, you need, especially a hiring manager. So let's say things are crazy busy. You're going to have more of a chance when things are quieter to get somebody to respond to you. Just like when you guys are less busy, right? You get more phone calls in, you get more other time. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's just where you spend your time, right? As I say, time is money, and time is money in TA versus a lot of other things, because think about what we're trying to do. We're trying to get people in jobs that drive the revenue of the companies. So yes, they need to fill jobs. They don't have time for things that aren't of value. But if you've got a client and you're asking their feedback, so I will say kudos to you guys, because I think, especially because of the kind of product that you're selling, that you should always give a call and a personal touch base to your client. You just should. Right? That's the right thing to do. It's absolutely high touch. It's a high touch product. Absolutely. That's fantastic. You know, if you feel like you could do a variety of different things, if you feel like you're not getting feedback from folks enough, because the feedback might be 10%, 15% of your group that you're sending out when you're sending out a survey. But maybe what you could do, Rasha, if you wanted to be creative, is maybe you really have a client that you really love and they are very deep into DE&I and they're passionate about it and they're smart. You could use them as a speaker, and you could tell them, right, the next project that you have, we will sell this, whatever it is, this 3-part training on proper onboarding to your business. You can have a complimentary package, and we would like to have you be a speaker for us. Or you could do things unique like that if you wanted to. But I think that before I do that, I would definitely give them a phone call, ask their feedback, send an email, and send a survey, and then do the cadence I said. Send the survey, wait for a week, send a reminder, and then close it. And they may come back
Um,
to you and say, same thing I told you on the phone, but they may also come back and give you something completely different. So there's a couple of different ways you could do it to drive participation in it.
mm, definitely something we can test. There is still like one small flag that's coming up, and just like whatever's coming up, I'm voicing it. Which is at that point we've already touched base with them so many times, whether it's for the pilot or for the service itself, etc. So I personally would be very careful in continuing to email that person a lot if they said like, listen, I'm okay for now, this is why, because I would want to use that contact to recycle them later on.
If that's the case, then Rasha, what I would do,
Reasons
if
why.
if
But
if you, oh, can you
oops,
hear me,
sorry.
Rasha?
Yes, sorry, my internet. Yeah.
No,
I
that's
can hear
okay. No, if you're worried about that, Rasha, then what I would do, honestly, guys, I draw a line in the sand. And I would
Okay.
say, so number one, again, I think you should definitely be touching base with your client in a personal basis. Don't ever stop that, guys. That is really, really important. Don't ever stop that. But then what you do instead of asking them for all this detail and all this feedback, all you do is simply say, hiring manager, thank you so much for your purchase. We really appreciate it, or your partnership, however you want to say it. But we are implementing a new process to ensure that we are being inclusive and making sure we're getting feedback from folks. We're doing an anonymous survey process. So everyone that's purchased our product is going to get this survey. It's completely anonymous. We would just ask that you take a few minutes. Takes 3 minutes to fill out, or however many minutes you want to say, right? Because you don't want, again, war and peace. You want something clean, crisp, simple, maybe 5 questions, 4 questions. The things that are going to be most powerful for you all as business leaders for Jobs for Humanity. What are the things that you need to know to make sure you're doing a good job, making sure the product is really applicable for your business and for your candidates, and that they can find you, and that it's easy to use. So if you could please fill that out for us, we'd appreciate it. Done.
Yeah, that's
and that's
okay.
I can tell you personally, I was in sales for years and years. Rasha, you know this. You and I've had this discussion in the past with Dalal. And I can tell you, I talk to my clients all the time, but at the end of the deal, I still sent them a survey. So I think you can do it just like that. You think about your contact with the client as your customer and client care. And then your survey is what everybody gets. Everybody gets a survey. We're asking for your feedback. Please take the 3 minutes to do it. It would really help us build a more inclusive product for Jobs for Humanity. Period.
Makes sense. That's very helpful. Sorry, I don't know if I'm interrupting how we want to continue.
No.
About this, but so question on the DNI part, you were saying, you know, do you have, you were suggesting that we have a small page, brochure, whatever it is, that is showcasing the USPs when it comes to the DEI. I agree with you, definitely. Now, 2 things. Number one, DNI tends to be huge in the market of North America for obvious reasons. In some other markets, and in Europe, in some other markets, it's not as much of a priority for some people. It's sort of like, okay, it's a nice to have, and it's good to know that we're going to have that included in the pool of people that are being pushed through from Jobs for Humanity. However, what I'm thinking is, I mean, the USP, the 2 other factors that are massive USPs for people usually is the point on time, saving a lot of time and saving a lot of money, because that's what people really care about. And we do talk about that in our pitch and etc. But you know very well that people tend to forget these things. So, and we do send our presentation, however, and we can show you that, but our presentation definitely needs a bit more of a wow factor, and it's not
Oh,
That's-
did we lose you, Rasha?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh
No,
wow.
you're
I was
back.
going on an entire pitch. Okay.
No. We heard you all the way onto the last 3 seconds ago. So you're saying that
Okay. So I just want to know if,
presentation is missing a wow factor. So anything after
yeah,
that last sentence.
so I just want to know basically from you, are you suggesting like what you're talking about that brochure, etc. Is it just for the DE&I training, or let's say a 5-page
No.
pitch that shows all of the USPs of Jobs for Humanity? What
Yeah. So
Or
when
you
I'm
were-
talking about, so maybe let's take a step back. This is again, Murray, this is a great diagram. I love it, but it's definitely
Mm.
bringing up a lot of questions, right? So that's
Mm.
great. That's exactly what it should do. So let's just think about this from an ROI perspective for a client, right? And we're not talking, take the DE&I training, put it over here in a bucket. That's a value add bolt-on product that somebody can have. Take the candidates away, put them over here for a second. Just go up to that first circle blob of hiring. So we're thinking simplicity, right? I am a senior level leader. The finance team has come back to me and has said, you get to hire 500 heads for, I don't know, 100 in this region, 200 in the other region, 50 in that region, and 50 in the other region, whatever it is, right? Because you're a global product. So I would think about it as simple as possible. What are you going to do to A, brand yourself, B, market yourself, C, get your overall visibility out there so that you are always the first place people think for posting their jobs. Always, right? That's what you want to get to.
Yeah.
I need to do this. Jobs for Humanity is the first place I go. Okay, why? So what have you done? What are you offering somebody to make sure that that is the case, that it is absolutely no thought process at all? My first call is Jobs for Humanity. That's what you're trying to get to from a client perspective. So when I'm talking about the one pager, so you are going to pitch somebody. So you're going to talk to them about how many candidates in your database, but you are going to really want to focus on. So if I'm a hiring leader and I'm going to spend money, I want to know what my ROI is. I want to know what my reporting capabilities are. And I want to understand what kind of support system you've got. And I want to understand your technology, right? I want to ensure that your technology is easy to use. Candidates are going to want to apply. It's going to be easy for me to have my people use it. It's going to be easy for me to get the reporting out of it so that I can show that I'm doing something that specifically goes towards my DE&I metrics and numbers and my initiatives. I'm talking ease and simplicity.
Okay.
So I think, again, guys, when you're in this, you love Jobs for Humanity. You have to take a step back and say, I may love the product and think it's the best thing ever, but I'm not a hiring manager that's trying to get budget. Because the other thing about TA and HR teams is they don't have a lot of money. So if you can actually get dollars from them as an investment that benefits their business in a variety of ways other than just selling them job postings, it's a huge positive. So you sell somebody a package. What I was saying, Rasha, about the one pager is you can tell them during your sales pitch, well, one of the positives about our tool, yes, it's a job posting tool. Yes, it's a very simple 3-click process. We have standard reporting. The reporting looks like this, and you give them a sample of what a report would look like. And the report, by the way, hiring manager, is on demand. So you can pull it anytime you want, but your recruiters can also pull it anytime you want. Because when they're talking to their hiring manager, they can show them how many people just off this report. And last but not least, we are going to give you, so maybe Rasha, it's as simple as, you said you've got a 5-page pitch deck. Maybe it's as simple as taking 5 main points out of each page of the deck. I don't know what your deck looks like, but your first page is for simplicity for inclusive hiring. What are the 5 main points? Your second page is how do you make sure that you do an inclusive interview? 5 main points, whatever it is. But you say to the hiring manager that's spending the money on your product, hey, we give you a 1-page tips and tricks that you can give to your recruiters and walk through your recruiters to make sure they're being inclusive in the product. That's what I was talking about.
I see. Okay. Okay. Thank you. That helps.
For sure. It's a value add.
Okay.
Good questions. Really good questions. Really good questions.
That was helping a lot. Should we continue to dig deep on each part, or like just look at the different parts of the process? Because then you're going to come up with different ideas, which is going to raise questions in our heads, I guess. But I'm also just of time that there's 15 minutes left.
Yep. Whatever is going to be most beneficial to you two. You tell me. Roy, I think this was, again, I think this is fabulous, right? That you've got this. And if you want to send this to me, maybe I can also add some notes into it when I'm doing the recap.
Sure.
That would be helpful.
If that would be helpful.
That would be helpful. And maybe after, because I know we have 4 sessions that we're going to be doing together. So maybe after the 4 sessions, I also would like to share something with you, which is like a list of activities based on the traffic light system thing, which is, you know, which is what Roy has showed us, sorry, but more in detail. So for each part, like what exactly are the activities that we're doing and for which reason? Sorry.
So in a list view, basically.
Yes.
So almost like a RACI or a RAID log, red, yellow, green. Is that what you're saying,
yes,
Rasha?
exactly. The traffic, yes, red, yellow, green, 1,000%. So we're doing, we're working on that, and that's really going to be like our compass. And we'll keep on building and building on it. So this conversation alone has already added like 4 or 5 points that I want to put on this Excel sheet. So once we finish after those 4, I'm going to add whatever comes out of this. And it would be great if we run it by you and you see that there's also certain stuff that we can add that we've missed based on the conversation.
Sure. Yep. So I think what Roy and I had agreed to is we do this call today, and then I'll take another hour after and I'll do the recap. And then we just need to book our next call for next week. And next week is the operations overview, Rasha, that I think you're talking about. So that's awesome if you've already got some work on that. And then I do a recap after that. So I can definitely do that. And I just see that. There we go. If I can download this somehow. Okay. So why don't we, Roy, whatever you think is going to be the best use of our next chunk of time?
Yeah. I think having a list of a prioritized list of things to work on, literally what you and Rasha are both talking about the same thing, ultimately, in order to just continuously improve. So one thing that we're trying to put on, like basically the key results that Rasha is focusing on is one of the 3 ones, is one of the 4, is to be able to run a monthly experiment. And so identify what are the best levers of growth that we should have, and act on each one of them every month, and then try to see if it's moved the needle properly in one part or another of the system. So it could be something like, I mean, Rasha, you have a much better handle on this than I do. I'm just going to throw something here, like where you can say we're A/B testing 2 different versions of the site, or then running an experiment where I put some comments here. Where are my notes here?
Mm.
Including diversity training in the messaging. So basically, to your point, Don, early on, later on, having this one pager and whatnot, a sales pitch, selling the DNI training because right now it's living a bit in isolation, so on and so forth, extending the pilot in exchange for a referral, in order to just basically close the loop here, so that we can get more from here, from the pilot. They could either purchase or they could potentially extend that free pilot by another couple of weeks by adding more to that, more employers who are here for hiring. Basically, we then get a third input here, and so on and so forth, to be able to prioritize them. But one thing that we could
Okay.
do maybe now in the next 10 minutes is I can walk you through a visual on these things and then get your immediate reaction based on that feedback. Because you had mentioned, Dawn, that this video is really nice, but it doesn't, fully capture what it is. I had
Yes.
someone just this morning reach out to me and say, I saw this video, and I get this almost every day. Like, this video completely differentiates you from everything else. I'd love to come and volunteer with this, or I'd love to come and be a part of the movement, and I'd like to hire with you guys, yada, yada. So I've felt, and plus from a elegant standpoint, like a modern niche standpoint, starting with something that's active is cool. But I'm wondering even if this should be the homepage, but the experience as it stands is, if you come through Google, so this entry point, if you come from this circle, you'll land here. You'll scroll down. You might explore a job site or two, and then you'll say, I'm an employer, I'm a job seeker. When you say I'm an employer, you're taken here. There's a lot of information that talks about us. And then finally, you can sign up for a pilot. We get on average, I would say 0.5 leads per day, people filling this up roughly.
Okay.
The other input, which is BDev, is an email campaign that's being sent via 6 bots, sending 50 emails per day. So 300, 2,000 per week. That takes them directly here to this page, where they get to read about us and sign up if they're interested. One experiment that I'm running is, instead of sending them here, what if we send them to this other landing page? And this basically is version B. Version A is just a form. Let me close these. Version B is, you get to interact with the system. So you come in, you put in your job, you get the candidate results, whatnot, you get the candidate results, you get the objectives, and yada, 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 yada. And then you see the top talent. There's a lot of info here. And then you fill this form. This is the second test in both cases. So what we're going to do is, we're going to, as soon as we're ready, we're going to send half the traffic here, half the traffic there on BDev, instead of going to the form where the page where you just see a form. You'll get to see the form and the ability to post a job. And then you start your pilot, and we want to see which one converts better. And so maybe if we just focused on this area right here from a TA perspective, and I just pause and not go through anything else, realizing that there are 3 entry pages. I'm going to put them side by side. So you've got Jobs for Humanity, and then Jobs for Humanity / employer. And then finally, you've got the B test. So this is Google. This is BDev campaign. The email marketing campaign, send them here. And this is going to be the second email marketing campaign, the B version of it. I'll can scroll through them or give you the right to move around the page, like give you remote control, however it is that you want to tackle this over
Okay.
just the next 5-6 minutes.
Yep. Okay. So a couple things. So I want to just take a step back. I love this, Roy, but it's not inclusive, right? So something that has just, and it stuck with me. I've had so many people when I've worked in the DE&I space that have said, this site or this flyer, or I just actually had it happen to a friend of mine, this event that I went to, it doesn't look like me. There's nobody there that looks like me, be it somebody who's in a wheelchair, or it's somebody who is from the LGBTQ community with something in rainbow, or if it's somebody who is deaf and hard of hearing, showing sign language, if it's somebody that is Hispanic, or somebody who is from another racial background. This is a phenomenal video. I love it, but it's not inclusive. And if it's the first thing that you see when you go to Jobs for Humanity and you're trying to talk about how interwoven, like that bucket right beneath you, where you have all the different circles, that's inclusive. If you could have a visual on the first page that you come to that shows the whole, and you're not going to have every single one of these buckets, these names on that one page. That's not what I'm saying. But if you could have a picture or something that shows much more inclusive, I think that would be better for your clients. I think it would be better for your candidates, right? I really, really do. Because this here on this page, this is who Jobs for Humanity is. Isn't it? It isn't this one gentleman, right? It's all these other groups. His story is phenomenal. I love it. I love this piece of it, but it's not the first thing somebody should see.
Yeah.
It's not showing inclusive. So that's the only thing. I love it. The other thing I will say is, if you're looking from a standpoint of, maybe go to that third option you gave me, Roy. Yeah, that one. Okay. So connecting. So why, if you're doing an email campaign, can you roll down please a little bit? Is there anything else be like, okay. Okay. So the only thing I might add, could you scroll back up again, please? I like this. This is simple. This is easy. If I'm going to sign up with somebody and it's a trial, the only other thing maybe I might do is maybe you want to put something here to the right side of it, talking about what Jobs for Humanity is. And some of those little buckets
here. Just we're missing an illustration of Maya Angelou.
Something that says, oh, okay, I get it. Right.
Yeah.
So I like the simplicity of this. People aren't going to scroll through 10 different pages, guys. They're going to get this and they're going to say, ooh. And if you have a visual or you have a blurb about how phenomenal, right? You could even have something that somebody wrote about you that was fantastic and put it in italicized on the side to say, it was such an inclusive tool. I got such great talent for whatever it is. But you have to have something that catches their attention, because who knows if they're going to go into the rest of the buttons on the top. They probably aren't. So something that catches them and makes them want to use it. I like this one a lot. Can you go back to the second one, please? So help me understand, guys, why there's 3 different choices. Why would you give people 3 different choices versus using something clean and simple?
Yeah.
That drives them straight there.
1,000%. So we're gonna sunset one or the other. Like this was what we had before. This is where, it's just best product practice to test it against the prior one and just see if it performs better, run an A/B test, and then run with the one that's a better performer. My hunch is this is a much better experience. And
I think so too.
Yeah, so we just have to, and obviously we're missing the illustration. So yeah, so that's why. And then this one here, speaks to job seekers and employers and introduces who we are, rather than like a first-time user experience, rather than drop everybody in here. But I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah. So again, you're going to send this to a potential client, right? So I think
Yeah.
about it from this side. Why does everybody want to use AI? Why everybody in the talent community, why do they want to use AI?
Because they have too many resumes to go through.
Okay. It simplifies it. It
Mm.
saves me time.
Mm.
Time is money. It's more accurate. Simple, clean. That's what they want. Simple, clean, easy to use, done. This is simple, clean, easy.
Yeah.
However, I'd have the illustration here, and I would have something somewhere that's easy of the why they want to buy from you. Why do they want to buy? This is phenomenal. Can you scroll down, Roy? Please do, money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sign up for a free two free week trial. Go down. Go down. Is that as far as it goes? No. Okay. So tell me this. If I'm a hiring manager coming in here, why do I have to go all the way down to the bottom of the page to understand who Jobs for Humanity is and why you should sign up with me? I think you should put your value at the top of your page. Right? Go all the way up. Yep. Okay. And you have your illustration or whatever here. And then you should have that. Yes. And then you should have that. You know, I keep calling it the one pager. Rasha's going to jump through the phone pretty soon at me, but it's the one pager. So what are the 5 points of why you should use Jobs for Humanity? It builds inclusivity within your team. We offer standard reporting. We offer a tips and trick sheet for your recruiters, right? Whatever those 4 or 5 things is, I want to know what the value is. And I shouldn't have to get all the way down to the bottom of the page to figure that out.
But isn't that here, for example, that's the approach we are taking here.
Yeah. So maybe you take that and you put it over to that simpler format. I like the simpler format, right?
Yeah.
That you just showed me. So take the whys. Why would I buy this from you? And you can have all the other fluff and things. So I would do the what you had to start. Yeah. What you had to start, why you want to buy from me and your illustration. Then I would have here's how you sign up for a 2-week trial. And then I'd put the other value things underneath it, right? All the other fluff things that people can read.
Wait,
But
underneath
you're trying
like-
to catch them and hook them, right?
Mm.
And you want to do it early. You want to do it early. So what is my value?
Don't you, so if we go up, don't you think testing, no, not this one, the other form that we're
Number
using.
3. Yeah.
Number 3. So maybe we can change, or we can have something hover at the top, the connecting inclusive employers with the job seekers. We can have like 4 different banners that are hovering that include our USPs. But don't you think that this tool that we have here is really strong? Because basically what it's doing, it's showing you rather than telling you. And I always think that is super strong. If we just show you what the platform does, we're not just telling you.
Yeah, but Rasha, what if I don't have time? What if 10 other companies are sending me the same link? Because you have to remember, every day when you're leading a TA and HR team, every day we get multiple emails. We get multiple outreaches on LinkedIn about people who want to sell us a candidate tool, a DE&I tool, a reporting tool. I mean, I get it constantly now. So you have to think about visually what is going to bring somebody in.
Sure.
You can't count that somebody's going to take time to go through and try your product.
I see. So in your
I
opinion,
don't think it's a bad idea, Rasha, but I don't think that people are going to take time to do it. You have to make them want to take the time. So reading Connecting Inclusive Employers with Job Seekers from All Walks of Life doesn't make me want to go through and try a tool. I want to know, right? what the benefit is. Then maybe if I think those 4 or 5 points that you're raising to me are good points, maybe then I'll go through and try it.
Exactly. So maybe like to sort of two birds and one stone, uh, exactly what you're suggesting, but rather than have more space for writing, we would just have it instead of what we currently connecting inclusive employers, et cetera, it would be more action oriented. It would be data driven. It would be the USPs. It wouldn't be like just, you know, a blurb that's not creating any sense of action or urgency. And then there would be the product.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I see that for sure. You need something that makes the person say, "Ah, I want to continue." I see. Yeah.
So think about it, as silly as this may sound, guys, think about it from a retailer, right? You go into Target, right? You go into, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a company in London. I can't right now. You go into Fordham and Mason, right down in Piccadilly Square. When you walk in the door, so this is your door. This is your doorway right here, guys, right?
Mhm.
When you walk in the door in Fordham and Mason on Piccadilly Square, the first thing you see are their teas and their candy. And the reason you see that is, number one, they were started in way long ago from their teas. It's their first product. It's their brand. It's what they're known for. So you walk in the door. So kind of think about it this way, Rasha and Roy. What is going to make somebody pull Jobs for Humanity off the shelf versus, so think Coke and Pepsi, right? What makes somebody take Coke off the shelf versus Pepsi and vice versa?
Mhm.
So what makes somebody take Jobs for Humanity for a trial versus, I don't know, LinkedIn for whatever? I don't know, that's a bad example. But what is it going to do that's going to hook that customer in so that they want to be your customer and they want to do business with you? So again, think about it from that standpoint. Sometimes thinking about the things you have to do in everyday life. Why do you go to the grocery store? You do. Why do you go buy clothing from the certain place? You do. Why is somebody going to buy from Jobs for Humanity? Because it's easy, it's inclusive, it offers me reporting, they offer me tips and tricks for my recruiters, and they have phenomenal service. Great, there's your 5 points. So that's how you have to kind of start thinking about this. Your normal everyday life thing. And if you sometimes you have to make yourself stop and think about, why do I go to the stores I do? Why do I buy the products I do? It's the same thing.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Sorry, Roy, I think
Nope, I think Roy had to walk away. Roy, I think it's time to go either way, but was this helpful, guys? Is this what kind of what you were looking for?
super, because it took back to your point earlier, you mentioned it a few times, you know, it took us out of the tunnel vision that we're in, which is very necessary. Plus coming from the perspective of someone within the industry and someone like, you know, you're thinking like who we're trying to sell to. So for me, it was super helpful. So I'm excited for the next few sessions. And if there's anything that we can prepare from our side ahead of time to share with you to make this more productive, let us know. Oh, Roy, we can't hear you.
Oh, yeah, Roy, we can't hear you at all.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Your mouth is moving.
Hello, can you hear me?
Right? There we go.
Sorry
You
about
were
that.
telling us all kinds of very important stuff, but we heard none of it.
Oh no, I was just trying to say that should we book a time for next week from now?
Yes, let's look at calendars. So right now I am open on Wednesday the 8th. So I could do pretty much any time on Wednesday, the 8th. Oh, now it kicked me out of here. Hold on a second. Yep, if Wednesday works for you all, right now I'm open. I have things Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, but Wednesday I'm open.
Russia, would you be free at 10 a.m. Eastern, being
So it's,
6 p.m.
Yeah.
your time?
Yeah, that works for me.
so that's
Okay.
9 a.m. Central. You said 10 a.m. Eastern, Roy?
I'm sorry. No, 10 a.m. Central.
10 a.m. Central. Yep, I can do 10 a.m. Central.
Yes.
Okay, let me add the time. Ten a.m. Central. Here we go.
Great.
Oh, Dawn, just let me know if the calendar invite appears, or else I create another one, because I know that we've had trouble with.
Yeah, last time when you repurposed it, it didn't show up. So I'll let you know if I get it.
Let me just recreate it.
Rasha, while Roy is doing that, so you said if there's anything to be prepared for the next call. So our next call is going to be focused all around looking at the like doing an operations review for the business. So it's from every functional piece of your business. We want to look at it, and we want to. It can be finance, HR, TA, technology, right? Anything that you have to have as a function to run the business. And I will also say, I'm really excited if you're doing a RACI. I usually use a Rail. I don't use a RACI, but if you're using a RACI right now, that's great, because that's an easy way to project manage things for you. But I would also think about it. Maybe we don't have this today, but we need it, right? So that's okay. You can call that out and you can document it. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. But when you think about doing a whole overview of an operations for your business, you want to think about it from a risk and compliance standpoint and an efficiency standpoint, right? So cost effectiveness, efficiencies, things that are going to preserve your brand, things that are going to preserve your employees and their happiness and their satisfaction, and things that are going to build the brand out in the marketplace. So you want to think about every single piece of your operations. That's what we're going to look at next time. And then we call out those things. And that's what you use towards your roadmap, right? And then we can start tapping into the experts we have on the executive advisory board for things. Maybe we can start tapping into other people that are volunteers and bringing them into things. But once you have a full review of that, you can understand where your holes are and where you might need help.
Okay. That's a good one. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
We'll have that
All
ready.
right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah. Have a good night, both.
You too.
Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.